What about these guys up on the roof?
Their job is to provide overwatch to protect me also.
Gotcha.
Protecting everybody on the ground. Protecting the job.
Understood. And
we're running medical. We're going in and we're getting injured.
And what about, are you from the area?
I am from the area.
What brought you out here tonight? You just wanted to provide medical attention?
Provide medical attention to people that need it. Somebody's injured. Like, you get hurt, I'm grabbing you.
Have you encountered any issues yet thus far with law enforcement or anything like that?
Yeah, we were trying to make some fire at the church. So we went to the church and we de-escalated the situation. Found them bringing it in, but they told me pertaining and greater arrested.
This church right over here.
And we stopped the fire out all the way down in. So.
Wow. And do you think it would have been different if the police had to try to stop them from setting the fire?
I feel like there would be a lot more casualties and a lot more people injured. So I think the police are fine where they're at. And I'm not sure the medical because EMS is not coming in. So
yeah.
So us citizens, we need that whole check. Me and him are out here running and seeing if we need more attention.
Speaking of which, we need to go check, see if somebody get hurt.
Alright.
Understood.
Yes,
sir. Absolutely. Oh, so you're a certified EMT? Gotcha. And you work as an EMT normally?
Yes, sir. I'm a lifeguard normally. I got my ALS.
Gotcha.
Former Army infantry, and I got a whole bunch of contracts.
Well, yesterday and today? What car?
So, I don't usually discuss creative choices that I've made on the channel, but I just kind of want to put in like a semi-disclaimer before I start talking about Kyle Rittenhouse and the Kenosha Killer situation. Since I came out of retirement recently, a lot of the videos I've created like overtures and intros using like big spaghetti western Ennio Morricone music to and people have sort of asked about, is this meant to aggrandize, to cast the heroes of white nationalism as profound mythic heroes? No. And I've noticed that some people from that side have read into this creative choice as mistake on my part because I make their guy look like some kind of profound, amazing, mythic hero. The truth is that the choice of this big Ennio Morricone operatic music it's ironic. And I don't mean in kind of like an irony bro way or like a pure satire kind of way. There is meant to be a dread and a fear produced by using the mythic music, the big grand music, to interrogate and examine the way that the fascist sees his struggle. And so if it was just irony, the ironic use of the music would just be to point out that it is a buffoonish narrative, that this person is kind of an innocuous fool. For me, there is another layer to that, which is dread and terror, realizing that there is danger in the embracing of the grotesque narrative of grand struggle, the fascist's understanding of himself, the hero narrative that he's participating in, that using this tone to show how big the idea of self and how big they see their journey, how much of a threat it is to you and me, the amount of blood, guts, and destruction that it's going to cost for the fascist to achieve, to make real the image of themselves as the great man in the mighty struggle for victory. So I want to kind of add that on there because I've always pointed out that irony and mocking is not enough. You need to embrace that the absurd is also horrific, that the danger is that the madness, and I don't mean it in terms of the mental illness of my political enemies. I mean the madness, the voluntary delusion and dissonance of the fascist, of the Nazi, the white nationalist, the separatist, whatever you want to call it. This is the existential threat. This will lead into true terror for the chosen victims, the sacrificial lambs of the white man's struggle, so to speak. The cost of his triumph is the annihilation of innocent people. So let's now that I've kind of gotten that out of the way, just so that people don't and I feel like my own audience doesn't need it to be explained, but I want to make sure that because I know that there are here and there pro-fascist viewers. I don't want them to get because they're not really good at picking up on sort of ironic use or tone and stuff like that. I just want them to understand that I'm not mistakenly making their heroes great. I am impressing upon my audience the great horror of their ideology. So as it applies to Kyle Rittenhouse, and I think I mentioned this with Enoch too, there is a layer, there is an opportunity to opt out of fear by cringing. Again, in this scenario, as it often is with the extreme right, you have the option of laughing at them. And generally, liberals or center-left types will opt for this, not realizing the reason that they chose pure cringe as the aversion, right? Like the means of avoidance, is because it's deeply horrifying, right? Like that somebody is this deeply immersed in a voluntary delusion, because it's not innocent. That's the thing, is like, even if the fascist is misguided, deluded, if the fascist is ignorant or useful idiot, whatever, which is kind of ableist language, but this, I should put scare quotes on that. Whatever framing you want to use, that this is not, the person sees himself as a hero, blah blah blah. That's not really relevant. What's relevant is the moral implications of the impact of performing the beliefs, of performing the ideology. That's what's at question here with a Kyle Rittenhouse scenario. Is you will see right-wing content creators posting videos of him being a naive, snot-nosed kid, innocently meaning well and things like this. This is the reason that liberalism, in the broad sense, not liberalism in the way that a conservative would present liberalism, but generally the existing order, including conservatives and liberals, meaning center left and center right, the reason that they themselves cannot defeat fascists, right? Conservatives cannot defeat the alt-right, and the center left cannot defeat the alt-right, in my opinion, because they conflate ignorance with innocence. They sort of mistake intention for impact. So they are very preoccupied with, the conservatives are very preoccupied with projecting a malicious intention where it doesn't exist, and I feel like the center left, sort of social democrat, bread tube types, they are preoccupied with, this bad person means well, so this means that they're inherently redeemable, and we should not approach them in a way that would alienate them or isolate them or annihilate them in the figurative sense, meaning to socially stigmatize them until they do not have any social currency, either in these platforms or in society at large. And so you get a lot of narrative around Kyle Rittenhouse. This is a kid who meant well. He had sort of a Boy Scout intention when he came to the rally carrying heavy military ordnance. He was doing property protection. He was protecting, I think his claim was that he was in the process of protecting a used car lot. And that's when he got into the confrontation, where there's footage out there, and I was thinking about whether or not I wanted to use footage of the shooting that Kyle Rittenhouse prosecuted, I guess is the language, probably the word that I would use, perpetrated. He killed 2 people. I think he injured a few others. But when I was going through the footage, as you can see what I chose, I think what is important to what I examine here on the channel is the way that the cops reacted to Rittenhouse and reacted to him coming over and surrendering to them and them not arresting him on the spot. That is meant to be, this is a big turning point. This is a big turning point because I don't know that modern fascism is going to look like 20th century fascism. And I knew that it would have its roots in 20th century fascism, but I was not sure what form 21st century fascism was going to take. I was very uncertain and sort of anxious about that, thinking about what's it going to look like now, because you cannot really create a broad right-wing populist opposition in this country, the United States of America, and I would say North America generally. Anti-Semitism is still mainstream in the European right for reasons I'm not going to spend a bunch of time discussing right now, but just to say that you could restore European fascism on the back of like thinly veiled anti-Semitism. What happened in the United States of America in the 20th century after the Second War is that Jewish people became white. And they became white under the legal... Well, no, that's not true. Jewish people have been white in the United States of America in the legal sense since the beginning. Since not that they didn't experience social stigma, but insofar as the slave trade and other, legal parameters of whiteness, Jewish people of fair complexion participated as white men in the history of this country, ostensibly from the very beginning. So we need to be aware of that, because in America, it is because of white supremacy that the alt-right has had difficulty getting traction. I don't think Kyle Rittenhouse is alternative right. I think that Kyle Rittenhouse is effectively a militia conservative, an alt-lighter, which is to say that he would be a Pinochet fascist. His fascist ideology would be about civic nationalism, but more so because fascism is a very sort of negative philosophy based on who it hates. The alternative right is based on specific ethnic resentment, meaning that the alt-right hates Jews above anything else. The alt-right has a totalized worldview around the extermination of Jews. They project all human pathology into Jews. Everything bad that's ever happened gets blamed on Jewish people. The ideology from which Kyle Rittenhouse has emerged and has executed the agenda of is the Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump reinvented American Pinochet fascism, which is to say that it is the tactics of fascism without the racial and ethnic specifiers, qualifiers. This is the attack helicopter, toss the communists from attack helicopter meme people. You understand? These are people who are anti-communist first. That's why this is the reason that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't get written off as a lone wolf psychopath is because, for example, the way that Dylan Roof did, right? None of the mainstream press came out for Dylan Roof, is that Kyle Rittenhouse did what the original fascists, Mussolini and Hitler did, which is to show themselves as effectively strike breakers fighting for the protection of private property. You'll notice a lot of the conservative coverage highlights that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't have a bunch of Facebook posts about hating the Jews, but that he was out there doing a civic duty. He's exactly the kind of vigilante that what makes him more dangerous, what makes what Kyle Rittenhouse did and what he represents more dangerous than the alt-right is that it could end up getting capitalist patronage, which is something that the alternative right has had extreme difficulty sustaining, especially since they departed from MAGA, because they challenged America's version of white supremacy, which includes successful Jewish capitalists as white men. So this makes it hard for them to get money, and it makes them hard to get to power in the way that Hitler and Mussolini did, which fundamentally was about using capitalist patronage to comfort and defend the interests and privileges of capitalism in a situation like we're in now, which, of course, is called late stage capitalism. This Rittenhouse style vigilantism, this is the 21st version of fascism that's going to come to this country. It's the only one that's possible here, is the one without ethno-state ideology, the one with popcorn civic nationalism infused with a preoccupation, an obsession with the defense of private property, and the depersoning, dehumanizing language that fascists would use against racial, ethnic, or sexual orientation. This is now completely poured into anti-communism, to say values in a very vague sense, right? But specifically, the line is drawn at being a threat to being a threat to private property. Even Charlottesville, the reason that Charlottesville did not catch under the new American fascism is because it was not about the defense of private property. It was about a sort of vague white heritage in the public space. These were public statues that they were crying about. This was about civic, no matter how malicious and toxic the Nazis at Charlottesville were, they were operating under the premise that they were doing civic duty, public service to defend the heritage of the American South. No, the new American fascism does not believe in civic duty. The new American fascism is Chicago Boys School. The new American fascism is Pinochet, violence for the free market, and the rest, the preservation, perpetuation of profit, property, and privilege. Be very careful of the new American fascism, because again, I believe that the alt-right in Europe still can succeed on these racial and ethnic resentments. They can pull that off. It's going to be extremely hard to do in America because you do not have a strong monolith of white population that is super pro-white. In this country, you are going to get something like the Proud Boys turning into a paramilitary group. And if things get bad enough, the Tucker Carlsons of the world are going to puff these guys up into the new SA and the new SS, the new strike breakers, the skull smashers of communists, which they will sort of conflate. They will throw BLM, which does have some anti-capitalist sentiment in it, but the substance of BLM is predominantly identity-based and can be recuperated by capitalism. Antifa, on the other hand, is predominantly anti-capitalist sentiment with a flavor of identity concerns about race, gender. So there's some then there. But in the end, the American crisis is going to be about capitalism versus socialism, communism. That's the one to watch for.